Science fiction author Enketer Jemisin loved the Jetsons as a child, fantasizing about taking a flying car to school thanks to its space-age vision of the 21st century. But while watching reruns as an adult, she noticed that there was nobody even slightly brown and that even the family android sounds white in a show meant to envision the future. Thing is, not white people make up most of the world's population, now as well as back in the 60s when the show was created, Jemisin wrote in a 2013 essay. So what happened to all those people in the minds of this show's creators? It's a question many have asked about science fiction, a genre that some laud for its progressive imaginings and portrayals of the future, but others have called out for minimizing or erasing people of color across literature, television, and film genres. Lycophrofurism fused sci-fi elements with Black and African culture. The science fiction and fantasy writings of Jemisin and Octavia Butler are highly regarded, and beloved characters like Uhura on Star Trek have left a lasting mark on popular culture. However, sci-fi and adjacent categories like horror have often focused on white protagonists and their experiences, and black audiences have historically been disregarded by mainstream projects. In recent years, the success of films like Get Out and Black Panther, as well as TV series like HBO's Watchmen, has shown that there's a hunger for black stories in sci-fi, and horror titles that have followed also prove that black fans of these genres who have long wanted to see such stories on screen have been here all along. A brief history of on-screen representation. Early sci-fi films like 1936's serialized Flash Gordon and TV shows like the original Lost in Space 1965-1968 were known for their out-of-this-world depictions of the future. But like the Jetsons, they centered on white protagonists with nary a black character in sight. Flash Gordon villain Ming the Merciless, portrayed by a white actor, is now considered a racist stereotype inspired by yellow peril ideology. When black characters did appear, it was usually to make a point about race or otherness. It reflected this concept of not looking at black people as people and as a part of broader humanity, said Yatasha L. Womack, author of Afrofuturism, The World of Black Sci-Fi and Fantasy Culture in CNN original series See It Loud. The mid to late 60s signaled a shift with Eartha Kitt taking over as Catwoman on TV's live-action Batman and Nichelle Nichols as Elt. Nyota Uhura on Star Trek, a role viewed as groundbreaking to this day. The mid to late 60s signaled a shift with Eartha Kitt taking over as Catwoman on TV's live-action Batman and Nichelle Nichols as Elt. Nyota Uhura on Star Trek, a role viewed as groundbreaking to this day. The Star Trek franchise would go on to feature Whoopi Goldberg, LeVar Burton, and Avery Brooks in memorable roles during the 80s and 90s. While Star Trek is often applauded for diverse casts and for some powerful statements around race, some viewers have called out real-world stereotypes in certain depictions of fictional species. Newer Star Trek shows such as Discovery, with Sonequa Martin Green as the franchise's first black female lead, feature fully raced characters and break with accepted Star Trek canon in interesting ways, said Isia Lavender III, Sterling Goodman professor of English at the University of Georgia, who specializes in race and ethnicity in science fiction. However, there are other areas where science fiction faces questions around its treatment of race. Science fiction deeply overlaps with race and racism with its aliens, artificial people, and scenarios, Lavender said in an email. Why is the creator of Skynet in the Terminator franchise a black geek, but the human resistance leaders are white, the heroine is white, and the Terminator itself white? Meanwhile, in horror films, black characters are often the ones who are killed off first. The trope is so common, it inspired the tagline for this year's horror comedy, The Blackening, We Can't All Die First. It's the kind of recurring plot point one may not think much about initially, and such cliches can become easy to normalize through jokes, said Juju Green, who posts movie commentary to more than 3 million TikTok followers. But when viewers watch something that subverts such narratives, it can make an impression and cause them to seek TV and movies with a fresher approach. Deep Blue Sea, which Green described as an awful movie but still a classic in its own right, was the first time he saw a black character played by LL Cool J survive a sci-fi horror film. That was one of the first times where I said, that could happen, he recalled, while acknowledging that Samuel L. Jackson's character in the 1999 film infamously did not make it. I thought that was really cool.